All right, we are live and ready to go. Jeff, are you ready for me to let folks in?
Let's do it.
Here we go.
Good morning, everyone. How are y'all? Thank you for being here. We are super excited today. This is our 1 million cups for the month with a second piece of it, which is our Spark as well. So this is a 2-for-1 deal today. We will have 1 million cups first. That'll be 30 minutes, and then we'll transition over to our Spark. So we'll have a new business through 1 million cups and an existing business through Spark. For those of you who have not seen or been to a Spark event before, which includes me, I am super excited to see and hear all of that. Once again, my name is Jeff Kickle. I am the CEO of T-Works Co-working over in Cedar Park, and have been actively involved with this program literally since almost day one, and absolutely love it. It's been an amazing experience. I also want to share our 1 million cups Round Rock organizer team, which includes Amy from the chamber, Bill Combs, my buddy from No Time for Social, Joshua Brito from Don Quick and Associates, the awesome Cynthia Flores from Round Rock Serving Center, Louis Avon from Bancorp South, Celicia from Think Group Austin, Jeremy Ransom from CTX Capital, our amazing mayor, Craig Morgan, and our organizer and Miss Awesome, Lauren Sellers, and birthday girl today. So everybody wish her a happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
From the Round Rock Chamber, and also Mark Richardson from Sendero Strategies. So what is 1 million cups? First off, I want to also thank our sponsors. Forgot about that. Our sponsors, Holiday Inn, which eventually someday we'll be back there. We're trying to get past the COVID world and get back out there. Don Quick has been involved since the beginning. No Time for Social has been helping us with our social since day one, and we could never do this without the Round Rock Chamber. They are an absolute wonderful partner for this. Okay, so first off, before I introduce our speaker for the day, let me tell you a little bit about 1 million cups. How did it get started? Well, the Kaufman Foundation up in Kansas City, Missouri, had a goal for themselves. They wanted to get 1 million volunteers or 1 million small business owners together for a cup of coffee. Well, awesome design, awesome, thought process, but how do you do that? So what did they do? They created a group that started to create little groups across the country. And to this date, I don't even know how many we are, but last count I saw was about 195 groups across the country. And they're all groups just like us today, getting together on Wednesday mornings and introducing an entrepreneur to the community, letting them share a little bit about their business. This is not a pitch competition. They're not pitching for money. They're not trying to get investors. What they want to do is tell you about their business. And then the most important thing that we do in Round Rock, and I will tell you, we do this better than anybody else in the state of Texas because I've presented at 17 of these across the state. One of the best things we have is the best audience, the best group of people who ask great questions. It is your opportunity to be, for this business, their focus group, their group that can ask questions, give feedback, provide answers to their questions. So when Sajol gets on here and talks about his business, he's going to have about 6 minutes to do that. And then the rest of the time is going to be spent with you asking questions. He's going to ask 3 questions for you. We need you to be there to answer those questions and also ask additional questions to clarify his business. So with that, I want to introduce Mr. Sajol Goshanal from Advanced Telesensers of Round Rock, and it is yours, my friend.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm
going to stop sharing and you can take it over, my friend.
All right, terrific. Can everyone see my screen? Excellent. Well, thank you, Jeff and Lauren, for inviting Advanced Telesensers to the 1 million cup and Spark presentation. We're very excited. Uh, I've been there at one of the other presentations, and you're right, Jeff. I mean, the questions and the support is just tremendous. So I'm the CEO of Advanced Telesensors. We are building a product. I built a product that is a non-contact cardio monitor, which means that you don't have to wear any wearables, and I can read your heart rate and respiratory rate. And we're targeting easy cardiac care in the home. It's initially in the assisted living premises. So what is it that we are doing, and why is it important? Well, what we have found is that we've got about 60 million aging Americans over the age of 65, and 3/4 of them have heart disease. And almost none of them want to wear wearables. The data that we get from AARP says only 5% use wearables. Seniors don't like wearables. So this is a very large underserved market. That's about a $20 billion target opportunity for us. So we've developed a solution that is currently deployed at the Bridges in Mission, Texas, which is an assisted living community of about 100 people. The unit, as you can see, is right above that painting. It's about a 3x3-inch puck-looking device that will scan the room. It's a 10 by 10 foot area that it can scan. The resident does not need to wear anything on them. In addition, because it's not a camera, there is privacy already built into the system, and it's radio waves, so we can read through blankets, clothing, lighting, and the lighting, so it can be in the dark. So it's not a camera-based solution. This time it's a general wellness device, which means we don't need FDA approval and we don't need a prescription. And we've been working with assisted living providers, and they can build this into the individual service plan as an augmented solution. We connect this device to an app that you can see on the right-hand side through a secure HIPAA compliant cloud management system that we're working with our sister company in Houston, Texas. And I'll go through some of the displays that you see over here. So a caregiver might have anywhere from 6 to 25 residents that they're tracking, depending what they do. So the application will have all the residents with their names over here. At any time, if any of these residents hit a particular threshold, for instance, if your heart rate exceeds 100 beats per minute, this area would go red, and you'll be able to address that immediately. Once you've cleared it, you can clear the alert. You can drill down and look at the heart rate, respiratory rate, stress level, and body temperature. And then we have graphs by which you can see things. We also send an SMS text message because this is an urgent thing, so you'll see that. The plot at the bottom is an example. I had my mother tracked, and she had congestive heart failure, and you could see the spikes in the respiratory rate when the respiratory was labored. Of course, at the same time, you never saw a heart rate change, so this is really interesting data. We expect that family members may want to watch or be aware of their elders, so we can integrate it to Amazon's Echo, for instance, and provide that same data. So that provides this remote, especially at COVID-19, when today, for instance, at the assisted living moment, they have a COVID case, you're not allowed back in. And so that restricts a lot of that connectivity, which is a big concern. So this is a quick 45-second video that gives you a little example.
Shows that we can do better. Isolation and quarantine policies meant to protect the vulnerable only left caregivers feeling blind and helpless, with no easy way to know if our loved ones were okay. Now there's an easy way to know. Cardio tracks vital signs without a wearable device and sends a distress alert if irregular heartbeats or breathing is detected, so we can know that everything is okay, even when we can't be with them. The COVID-19.
All right, got it. Okay. So we've tested the device against ECG gold standard. We are within about 2 beats per minute accuracy, with normal movement. That's a very key element in terms of how, you detect some of these heart rates. A little background on the technology. It was developed actually at NASA and Jet Propulsion Labs in Pasadena. It is fundamentally a radar which detects micro vibrations on your body. So we do not penetrate your body. And so it's effortless and scalable. You don't have to wear any wearables. We have 6 patents, 3 of them granted, 3 of them filed. And we've done testing across a large set of individuals, both babies and adults. So what's the value? What we want to do is provide a 3-point solution. 1, we provide better service, which is faster because you can get an alert moment the problem occurs. Today, caregivers in assisted livings do like a 30-minute round-the-clock check, and that can be quite slow. If you can do that, you can actually save some head count, because currently today the ratio is about 1 to 12. in terms of caregivers to residents. And this can be reduced by at least one head count, as we've talked with some of our assisted living folks, and that'll save you about 120K. In addition, we actually want to make this a win-win for the service providers, so we do a revenue sharing model where they can earn an additional 30 to 45K. Let me show you how that works. So it's a very simple situation. We do a SaaS model, which is software as a service, which means you don't pay for the device, you simply pay for the service. A 1-year license cost is about $100 per month, and we've tested it with both Sunrise and some large places that 125 per residence is very doable, which means the provider gets $25 and gets himself $30,000. If we try to make the incentive more, so if you can go for a 2-year license, you get obviously a lot more and keep the same thing. So in terms of the market size, there's about 1 million beds that are there for assisted living. The SAM is about 250, and we see a serviceable market of about 87,000, which is led by some of the 4 major players: Brookdale, Sunrise, 5-Star, and Williams. So that's our initial target that says that we can build this business without a huge number of folks. We expect to do about $750,000 in 2021, and this is the classic SaaS model by which, as you get more residents, your monthly fee will just create your ramp for your volume. So the first year is low, but then you start to see it, grow quite quickly. Our team is myself. I've been serving multiple startups. The first one was back in 99, where a company called Level One, we had it acquired by Intel for $2.2 billion. I came to Austin and worked with another company called Gear, which we got acquired by Lucent in about 14 months for about $450. And then most recently worked with another company startup in Dallas called Taos, Texas Advanced Optical Sensors, which we sold to AMS. Stephanie is our director of marketing. She's got over 15 years of sales in large distribution places like Costco, Walmart, and those will be some of our larger targets as we migrate out of the B2B section. Steve Monalkos is our chief scientist. He's the key guy on the algorithms that we have developed, and he still works at Jet Propulsion Labs. Eric Farrell, our medical officer, he sort of integrates our health and tech startup together. In addition, we have just recently had on our board Jason Zagrosky, who's here in Austin and is a key cardiologist for arrhythmia. So here's some of the 3 questions I was looking at. One of the challenges we've run into recently, of course, with COVID-19 is we really can't get to meet or enter some of the assisted living facilities. That's put a little bit of a crunch on it. It started, in fact, we had deployments right then in April when it just became stopped. So the question is, how do we solve that? One of the other challenges in ramping sales is new technologies tend to have a lower adoption rate. So what techniques could we use to accelerate that? And then the last one is really based on FDA devices. We are not an FDA, we're a general wellness. It's okay to have that. We've got all the approvals, from an FDA kind of requirement. But a lot of the assisted living, really tend to look at FDA devices. So how do we sell into that? One example of that is we've been working with the VA programs too, in terms of getting the device in that place. So here's some of the questions, but we look forward to more of your questions of this business. Thanks.
So Joel, thank you for that. That was fantastic. Hey, I have one question to kick us off, and that is, so how does the technology work? Let's say I go and visit my grandmother in the assisted living facility. How does the technology differentiate me from her at that
That's
point?
a really good question. At this time, it doesn't. We expect to see that at a later point where we can separate the individuals, because all of us have a very unique cardiac signature, just like your fingerprint. At this point, we have not enabled a lot of the artificial learning kind of ability to separate that. So we will pick up both signatures and it'll be not clear. We recognize that is not important at that time because you have people taking care of the person. Even when a caregiver comes in, we will pick their signature up. It's when they're alone that is the most important part of that detection.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right, so let's go ahead and open it up to questions at this point. Just unmute yourself and we'll see if we can't get the ball rolling here.
Can you hear me?
Question.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Lennis. This is fantastic technology. I wanted to ask you if you have, in regards to your first question, how do you get into the assisted living facilities? Have you run a survey at different facilities kind of asking what will make them feel safe for someone to come and actually do the installation, and also maybe say, give more details on how long would an installation of this device be. So just wanted to know from that perspective, just how long does it take, and have you run any surveys, or have you thought about running surveys at different assisted facilities on what will be the critical points for them to allow you to get into the place and feel safe when you're providing a service that will actually help them and help their the people in there.
That's a really good question. Thank you for that. The survey, I think, is something we've been sort of been looking at doing. Initially, we thought we'd be able to meet them directly, and so we sort of ignored the survey part for that. But that's become probably a requirement right now. I sort of worked on doing the first install at Mission. It takes less than about 20 minutes to put it on. Primarily, all you have to do is figure a way where you want to mount it. So we found that the unit is so light that you can use command strips to mount it. Of course, that's temporary, because when you have an assisted living, you probably want to screw it into the wall. So it just takes that time to put that on. And then it's just a matter of connecting to your Wi-Fi, which is the same thing you do with your thermostat or anything today. So we, in the beginning, asked them for their Wi-Fi, SSID and password. And so then you come in with that knowledge, you simply connect it to your smartphone, and it connects up.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Idea. Thank you.
Ben, you raised your hand?
Yes, I did. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, good. So John, have you, when I first started looking for a way to find out information on Social Security and through AARP and all that, I realized that they had groups that actually met in different locations to talk about general questions that people had. Have you thought of doing some virtual meetings with the families of the people that are in the homes, so that they can understand it and they could be your conduit between the facility and the product that you have? Because I think if they understand it, they could really explain it more and sell it more, should I say.
That's a really good idea. No, I haven't thought about it. We only looked at the AARP reports, but I didn't know they had groups, groups that can kind of bring that information, because that would be really useful when you can get it from a family member. Absolutely.
Yeah, excellent. All right, who is next? What other questions?
Hey, good morning. This is Jimmy.
Morning, Jimmy.
Hi, good morning. So from what I'm hearing so far, this is primarily for assisted living facilities. Did you anticipate at some point where it would be available?
Yes. So our target right now is to release the device in October. And since the company is small, we figured that we cannot afford to get a large force in place. So that's part of the reason we haven't gone B2C yet. Because that would probably, we know that would sell, and you can, but you've got to get into Amazon. There's a lot of other support and e-commerce type of structures to put in place. So our initial target is to validate the technology and have it in a place that is really useful, like assisted living, which will then be the storyteller for us to go out anywhere else. Every time I've pitched, at any investor conference, almost everyone there wants the device. And that's the challenge. Is we recognize that it's really attractive, but the support requirement for that needs to be put in place.
The other part of the question I have is, let's say that you get to the point where you make it available directly to the consumer, for in-home use. Will the device be able to, because obviously in an ALF, the person will be confined to pretty much one room, whereas in a home, they can move from room to room. So will it be able to detect once the person moves, like for example, if it's set up in their living room, they go into their bedroom or bathroom, would it be able to detect or not?
So the range is limited because you don't want it to pick up someone outside the room. So to pick up a person in another room, you have to have another sensor. And actually, once we get the initial deployment, we'll be able to drive that cost down, because obviously you want to be able to do more for the same thing. So, for instance, you see today some of the assisted living motion sensors. They'll have a little magnetic thing that they'll stick on the refrigerator, So when you come by from that through that area, you'll be picked up. They put another one near the TV. So you have multiple locations for the unit. We expect to do the same thing. We're going to drive that cost down. Today, the device is roughly about a 3 by 3 inch puck. By the end of the year to early next year, we have a new radar technology coming on that we're going to go on to, and it'll probably come close to a 1 inch by 1 inch postage stamp.
Wow.
Okay, and just one last question. Since it does not need FDA approval, so I imagine that this is not something that Medicare would pick up part of the cost.
We are actually working partly to get that into Medicare too, and we're working with Congress. I've been there since the last 3 months earlier in December and met with a couple of the congressmen who are pushing legislation that says we should try to have non-FDA devices for small companies that are starting that can be in the Medicare program for, let's say, a couple of years till it's validated. Otherwise, it stops us from doing that. So we're working with Congress. It was supposed to be part of the healthcare bill. There was an outline that says we should be able to test devices there. It hasn't yet occurred. So, but you're right. At this point, it isn't. Our plan is to get FDA approval somewhere in the 2022 timeframe. At least start the process.
Excellent.
Excellent. Any other questions? Got room for
Joel, I have a question. So you said that it connects to Wi-Fi. If you have an unstable Wi-Fi connection or if your Wi-Fi goes down, does it back up somehow?
That's a really good question. In fact, that's exactly when we were testing at the missions. This is what happened. In fact, last week we already had a problem because they had the hurricane that came in. There's a lot of water damage that occurred there. So there were times when the Wi-Fi was not there. What we have is the ability to store data locally on it. So then you can upload. Although that's a good idea, it actually doesn't help you, because if a patient had a problem, it's nice to find out, 5 hours later that they had a problem, because I can't send anything out. There's just no way to get the data out if you lose power or you have a Wi-Fi connection loss. One of the things we expect to do, it's part of the learning. Two things to also remember: a lot of the assisted living homes, the Wi-Fi is not enterprise class. So they do, for instance, the one a couple I went to, they had actually no password. So it's very rudimentary, and so it may not be very reliable. And so that's a very important thing, because you have a unit that's supposed to give you alerts, and if it's not reliable, you've got a problem with the connection. At a later point, what we found is that you can actually do LTE connections, which is through directly out to the outside of your Wi-Fi. Since our data rate is so low, we have what's called NB-IoT, narrowband IoT connections now available from AT&T and Verizon, etc. And if you run it low enough, it costs you literally $10 a year. And the unit costs $35 to put in, and that's in small quantities. So you can imagine the huge change in technology. If I'd recognized that a year ago, I'd have built that in. I mean, I just didn't realize that Wi-Fi. We looked at Bluetooth, and we found Bluetooth doesn't go through walls and stuff like that. And we said, boy, you'll have connectivity issues. So Wi-Fi was the path. But with all the testing we've been doing, later on, we expect to probably do an LTE uplink.
Would that be something that you would actually just provide to the facility as part of the package, or?
That's correct. I mean, it solves, again, the installation problem. Boy, it comes pre-installed. Beautiful. I mean, you just put it in and it works.
Yeah, you don't want them to have to be their own tech support too.
Exactly. Yes.
All right. Any other questions? We've got a room for probably about 2 more here.
Jeff, I have sort of a follow-up question in relation to the B2C side of things. I know you're pitching right now that it doesn't necessarily have to connect with wearables, or it doesn't. In relation to having multiple units in multiple rooms, I'm thinking of my mom in Boca Raton. She's in her mid-70s, lives in a house. She would probably have to have 5 of these around her house in order to make sure all the rooms are covered. Could you do an app that sort of also pulls the same data out of an Apple Watch or a Fitbit, and at least transmits some data to the unit through the wearable, or is that a consideration?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I recognize that we will not be the end all of everything. For instance, what I think, everyone needs is something like 5, vitals that you want to track. We
Sure.
can do heart rate, respiratory rate, and body temperature. The body temperature became something to become aware of because of COVID-19, right? So if I
Yep.
can see an elevated thing, wow, that's great data, right?
Yeah.
But I can't do blood pressure right now. We think we can do it later. There's some algorithm we can work on, but we can't do that right now. We can't do SpO2 right now.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's one of the reasons we've teamed up with this with the cloud company in Houston called Galen Data, and they have a complete HIPAA cloud over there. What we want to do is to be able to connect to that cloud other types of things, like Omron's pulse oximeter could be connected in there. We believe that you should be able to track all these things with just one part of this ecosystem. And we want to be able to enable that whole thing to occur.
That's great.
So
Excellent.
we had initially built our own cloud, and I realized just to try to support everyone from Omron, it would become a nightmare. So
Yeah.
we were just lucky to have another third party that would then become, independent of us to be able
Yep.
to do that.
Excellent.
Okay, we
Great.
got probably room for one more question if somebody's got one.
This is Jimmy again. What about in communities that really don't have the, like mostly rural communities that where they don't really have Wi-Fi?
Right.
So do you have maybe not right now, but like in the future, anticipate on
Actually,
what
we're
to do?
working right now. We do have a group, as I said, in Washington is helping us. So we're actually working with the Oneida tribe, Indian tribe, to be able to deploy this over there. We're looking at deploying about 48 units there in the next quarter. And we've talked about Wi-Fi. They'll probably install a Wi-Fi there. But if with the right kind of funding, we can modify the unit to go LTE. So we're working through that right now with them, and that's a really good idea because some of these communities, the rural communities, don't have Wi-Fi access, but LTE would be available.
Excellent. Wonderful questions. So Joel, thank you very much. It was a fantastic presentation today. Really, truly appreciated you coming out. And I mean, this is amazing technology. Can't wait to see where you go. Folks, if you have any further questions for Sajol, could you make sure that you put your contact information? I'm looking through all the.
Yes. Let's see if it's on the next slide. No, it isn't. So it's on the first slide.
Yeah.
And yes, thank you very much for it's skoshal at Cardio.io.
Okay.
So we sort of branded ourselves Cardio. One of the things that, in addition to the other questions, if anyone knows anyone locally, because with COVID-19 it's very difficult to travel. So one of the things we're looking at is, working with local assisted living places that would be interested in doing maybe a trial test run with this device.
Outstanding. Yeah, so folks, reach out to him if you've got any connections in this world. That's what we do best in Round Rock, is really help connect each other and help support businesses. So if you've got any connections with assisted living facilities, let's get them in front of them. I mean, this is amazing technology. And I think just from all the things that it does, even with temperature right now, is huge in those facilities. So if we can get him out there, I think we can save some lives. Thank you so much. Sajol, can you unshare your screen so that I can share mine? All right. So give me 1 second here. All right, now let's get out of that. Okay, so there. So thanks everybody for joining us today. We have two upcoming events here, virtual as far as we know for now, September 2nd and October 7th. You can find us at www.1millioncups.com/roundrock/RSVP. And please RSVP for these things because we need to get you the Zoom call and everything else. If you are out in the audience today, as Sajol was at one time, I remember talking to him the very first day he came out and learning about his technology and how amazing it was. If you're interested in sharing your story like he did today, find an organizer or apply to present at www.1millioncups.com/roundrock. and we will work with you. So one of the things we do differently here in Round Rock is we actually work with our presenters, help them kind of get the presentation in the format that we're used to here in Round Rock so that we get the best benefit out of that, what we do best, which is to ask lots of questions. So if you are interested in doing this, you may not feel like you're ready yet. We're going to get you ready so that you have a wonderful presentation and you present your business outstanding. Stay connected. Also, 1millioncups.com/roundrock, facebook.com/1millioncupsrr, twitter.com 1millioncupsrr, and our hashtag is #1MCRR. So with that, I thank you for joining our portion of the meeting today. Now I'm going to transition over to our Spark event, and I will unshare my world here. And Lauren, take us away.
Right. Thank you guys for being here with us today. And thank you, Sujal, for presenting. That was fabulous. I'm going to hand it over to Jessica at this point, and we're going to dive into our Spark event.
Awesome. Hey, thanks, guys. I'm so excited to see how many people have logged on this morning. It just warms my heart. I was laughing earlier because the notes for the event said Jessica takes the stage. I just thought it would be really funny if I had like strobe lights and fog, and then I rose out from the bottom of the screen to take over the second half of this event. Hi, everybody. My name is Jessica Scanlon. For those of you who don't know me, I run an agency here in Round Rock called Hot Dog Marketing. But more importantly, I'm your chair of entrepreneurship for the Round Rock Chamber. So I am very happy to host Spark online for you guys today. So before we get to our amazing entrepreneur who's going to share a great story, I want to introduce our sponsor, who's been very generous and has supported Spark since the get-go. So Jim Howlitz, he's a partner at Richards, Rodriguez, and Skeets, and I'm going to turn it over to Jim. He's also one of the best dressed people on the call this
morning. Hi, everybody. Yeah, this is appearances can be deceiving in terms of what I'm wearing, but thank you all for coming out in this new format. You know, I've had the pleasure of being the sponsor of this event since it started. I think it's 4 years ago, and a couple of years ago when we were meeting in person, I made the joke that I was like the ad at the beginning of the YouTube video. And now I feel like that in reality. So I'm going to try to be less annoying than the typical YouTube ad and be very brief and just say that one of the best pieces of advice that I ever heard given at a Spark event was one of the presenters said that part of her journey, was a key to success was getting a group of advisors that really assisted her, that she could draw on to help with problems that she encountered, to point out blind spots, to really share their experience. And that's the reason why my firm sponsors this. Is we want to support entrepreneurship in Round Rock and in Austin. And I would encourage you that if you don't have a relationship with an attorney, every business needs an attorney, every business needs an accountant, every business needs business advisors and coaches. But if you don't have a relationship with an attorney, I suggest that you get one, and that you get one before you really need it. Lawyers are people that you're going to need to turn to on your worst day. And as you go through, you only want to call us when you really need us. And so you should call somebody that you already know, somebody that you feel confident that you can share information with, and tell them about a problem, and maybe actually say to them, look, I screwed up here and I need you to help me get out of this problem and get out of this trouble. And so I'm going to put out my contact information. I would love to have a conversation with you about your entrepreneurial journey and your business and see if there's something that my firm can do to help you. It's not just me, there's actually 15 of us, and we're a full service law firm that assists small and medium businesses here in Central Texas. We do everything from business and transactional work to intellectual property, employment law, and litigation. And so I encourage you to think about that as you move forward. And I'm really looking forward to our speaker today. I'm glad that we could continue the series online. And I hope that I get to see all of you in person, maybe the next time or the time after that. Thanks very much.
Yay, thanks, Jim. So you guys know Jim is my attorney, and I can vouch. It's been very helpful to have a good relationship with Jim.
Thank you.
All right. So entrepreneurship, part of our chamber strategy for economic growth and generation in the city of Round Rock is fostering entrepreneurship. And the Spark event is meant to inspire us to go forth with our ventures, no matter how much trouble or where we stumble. And probably the best part of these Spark events, and I don't know what she's going to share, but I love hearing about all the mistakes that happened along the way. Makes me feel better about my own journey and how messy it can get. So I'm really excited that we're here, that we can hear from these successful entrepreneurs and learn from them. Today, we have Jordan Jones, founder of Packed Party, also featured on the 2020 list 30 under 30 for Forbes in the retail and e-commerce list. So that's incredible. And I'm just going to read real quick what it said in Forbes. So with $2.75 million in funding from Capstar Partners and others, she started selling boxes filled with supplies for a party of one. And now she designs and manufactures a wide range of brightly colored party products that are sold in the aisles of Whole Foods, Neiman Marcus, and Paper Source. Jones expects revenue of $20 million in 2020, 20 and 20, lots of 20s, $20 million in 2020. The pandemic has not slowed her down, and they launched an exclusive collection inside Walmart. So I'm really excited. Here's Jordan. Everybody clap.
Hi guys, thanks so much for having me. I am sorry my Zoom is not working. I had an auto update on my computer. So is my presentation, is that being shared? I'm joining from my phone.
Sure is. You're good.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay, well, I can just kind of jump in from there. For those of y'all that are unfamiliar with Packed Party, I started the company in 2013. Packed Party is a brand that is meant to encourage people, men and women, to make their lives a party. So just as she read, we started as a 5-product package company. Back in 2013, there was really only subscription boxes around, and I had a vision for creating more experiences and basically glorified care packages, if you will. So I had moved to San Francisco. I was working in Silicon Valley. I didn't know a soul. I had a pity party for myself. One night I called my mom. I was, didn't really know anybody in the city. She told me I was having a pity party for myself, and promptly got off the phone with me and told me to go to bed. So I listened to her, thank goodness. I had a dream about sending myself a physical pity party package, woke up right there in my teeny tiny maid's quarters apartment, wrote a business plan that was called The Business with Packed Party. I knew, these themed party for one packages, we could sell miss you packages and actual pity party packages with items inside that were curated. And one problem, I had a full-time job. So this really started as a side hustle, but we got a lot of traction. My background was in strategic media, so I wrote a BuzzFeed article about myself, which of course, looking back seemed a little crazy, but I was really fearless in starting and very naive too. So I ran full steam ahead, getting a lot of media and press about the brand. The San Francisco Chronicle published an article about my care package at the time company called Packed Party. And very quickly thereafter, I was fired from my job. So talk about mistakes. I was like, what have I done? This Packed Party thing is ruining my life. I sell 5 packages online. I'm not even selling wholesale. I'm not even making, you know, 50K a year, like, you know, selling these packages. It was really a dark time there for a minute because I had no idea how I was going to pay my rent in San Francisco. So I sort of went down the rabbit hole of, do I need to walk dogs? What exactly am I going to have to do here? So a few side hustles later, doing social media for restaurants and walking dogs, doing some recruiting on the side, Packed Party really took off once I made it my main focus. So from there, we really evolved into more of a lifestyle brand that you'll see today on packedparty.com. So we started designing other items that in the jewelry space, you know, our doorstep necklace, which we hand engrave with whatever numbers you call home. And we're kind of responding to the needs that people were seeing inside of our packages. Because if you've looked at our site, we don't even sell packages anymore. We sold these beautiful care packages at the time with other people's items in them, centered around the theme of the party being thrown with a card. But people loved our brand so much, they wanted Packed Party to manufacture, design, and sell products on its own. But I was 23. I had no experience in manufacturing or designing products. I was in marketing at a startup there. I didn't know anybody in manufacturing. So pretty quickly, I had to respond to the call. And you'll see kind of in some of the pictures in the presentation, some of like the first images that we took, and the idea even was in there too, some of the early press that we had. I mean, it was definitely a grind, but we had a lot of people that really believed in the brand, so much so it kind of fell into the right hands to get me in the position to start licensing. So that more positioned Packed Party into actually designing and manufacturing a lot of the products that you'll see. So ironically, the Million Cups is very on brand for Packed Party too, because the first, you know, product that we made outside the packages, I made you can see it in the second slide underneath that disco ball water dispenser. It was a disco drink so I trademarked the name, but I didn't have a patent on it. But I borrowed a little bit of money and started selling these cups that were disco balls that you can drink out of, because I was taking all of these photos with disco balls and they would get so much engagement on our social media. I was like, well, what if you could drink out of a disco ball? So we sold 1 million of those cups within the first few months of launching them. And that was really kind of that signature moment. And the margin was so good on those cups, it put us in a position to get into Neiman Marcus, Nordstrom's, Paper Source, a lot of those. And that kind of entered the wholesale piece of the business. So from there, I kind of mentioned before, we were approached by a company to do some licensing. They allowed me to not give up any of my business and start designing, doing really what I was passionate about. They would handle all the manufacturing, the distribution, which it seemed like a really great idea. I was about 25 then at the time. I'd been cruising along. The business had been growing, you know, not at a crazy trajectory, but it had been steadily growing. And as it turned out, I was making a very small percentage while they were manufacturing for me. So I started getting the numbers back, and I was like, you know what, I have a really great case to go actually raise money now and do all the manufacturing on my own. So kind of took that licensing deal as a stepping stone, took the 1 million units I had sold of our disco drink on our own, paired with these contacts that I had inside these major retailers and the brand that I had built on social media. We had really taken off over Instagram because we had so many of these bright and fun images that you'll see in this slideshow that people were really just resonating with. They were saying, you know, I don't care what it is. I love this, like looking at these pictures. They're so happy. They're so fun. This girl's story, like she's 23. She had a dream in the middle of the night. She could start this business. I could start this business. So, I mean, really quickly from there, it was game on in San Francisco, which is a really expensive city to run a business from. I had a very small team of people helping me. My mom was shipping out of a basement. My dad was helping her. We had a few neighborhood friends. I mean, my parents were shipping Neiman Marcus, which is crazy looking back on now. And that grew and kind of went on for a few years, and finally was in a position with the right capital around me to raise and move the business to Austin, raised money here with a great group. I was introduced to Kendra Scott, who I'm sure you all are very familiar with. And I wasn't in the a position at the time when I met her to be. I had run the business is always, profitable. I was so focused. My dad was a very conservative business person. He was a banker. So can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, you're good.
You cut out
Okay.
a little bit, but you're fine now. Yeah.
Sorry about that. My
No
AirPods
problem.
just died. So Kendra Scott introduced me to a few people that had very early on invested in her and, told me whenever I was in a position to raise capital, I should reach out to them. And I kind of thought, it would be great to raise the money, but I don't think I need to. I, really want to create just a profitable business. I don't want to give away any piece of my company. Well, about that time, we had started manufacturing game day bags. So we were one of the first companies kind of out there to make the clear stadium bags that you see everywhere now. So we were selling inside the Dallas Cowboy Stadium and inside all of their pro shops that are in strip malls. We were in Airmark Stadium for the Kansas City Chiefs. So that kind of one side of my business was exploding, the game day bag side, and this is all before paper party supplies too, but it came, which is now, but the game day side of our business was really exploding. And then at the same time, the retail side of our business was exploding. So I had to respond to POs from Dillard's, and I had 6 people that worked for me. So I was in a position one day, I was like, we just don't have the help here that we need. So was able to secure funding within basically a week, because we had really bootstrapped the business and just built such a great actual foundation for a real business in retail when so many businesses are so far in the hole. We had run Packed Party so lean. So we were able to kind of deliver on those POs, grow from there, and then just really better position ourselves into furthering what it means to make life a party. So a lot of people, when they hear Packed Party, they always said, oh, you make party supplies. It's like, no, we make products that make life a party. And then finally, it was like, well, people are so obsessed with our brand. Why don't we make paper party supplies? We can do it better, than a lot of these retailers, the current vendor there. So I saw some white space inside Whole Foods first, just completely cold approached them and said, hey, we could move your current vendor out and we can do it for several dollars less. We're a woman-owned business. You're gonna want to work with us, which was completely out on a limb. And 9 months later, we took over all of their stores as their exclusive party wear vendor nationwide. So, and any Whole Foods that are large enough to have paper plates, cups, napkins, confetti, beeswax candles, you name it, anything party related, it's Packed Party. So they were kind of the first grocery store we leaned into doing paper party with, and that really hockey sticked Packed Party into really where we are today. So we talked about Walmart. Walmart very quickly approached us, I think, in the rat race with Amazon and how competitive those two are with one another. They were like, hey, we would love to find a way to work with you guys and do an exclusive line, different than what you're doing at Whole Foods. And it made a lot of sense for us. It's a very different customer. So we partnered with them. We worked for another year really tirelessly to design what's now 4 feet in 1,600 of their doors. That is a Packed Party section right next to Pioneer Woman, Frozen, all those different brands. So that's been really, really exciting to just see the business grow. But really overall, our mission has stayed the same throughout the last 7 years. It's anything and everything that makes life a party. Packed Party, of course, started off of a pity party. And there's been a million hiccups along the way, but it's really been this ongoing journey of deciding, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to make my own life a party. And our team has really adopted that same mentality. We look challenges in the face and we say, okay, we don't exactly know how to do this, but we're going to figure it out. So we are a really young group. It's been really awesome to grow the business in North Austin. We're not too far from you guys, just on 183 in Mopac, and just hire some really incredibly smart and talented people that had come from other successful Austin businesses and had, great exits there, and just add to the team. So that's who we are. That's how I started. And there's been a lot of, like I said, hiccups and mistakes along the way that I could tell you all about. But they would take a whole nother hour. So for the short version, that is Packed Party.
Awesome. That was, oh, I'm already on your website. That's one of the benefits of doing this virtually. I'm like adding things to my shopping cart as you're talking. I'm like, oh my God, look at that umbrella.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a lot of confetti, a lot of color, just really experiential and fun products. And then you won't even see any of the paper goods. If you're on packedparty.com, you won't even see anything that is on Walmart. I mean, you have to go to walmart.com/packedparty. You'll see myself there, video tutorials, like any of the products that we have exclusively designed for them live there. But then everything else, you know, that we make and we distribute out of Austin. We have a distribution center here. Don't worry, we're not shipping out of my parents' basement anymore. That all comes out of Texas. So it's been really cool. We're really, really thrilled to be a part of the Austin ecosystem, you know, that is the scene and the startup scene here. It's awesome.
I think before I open the floor up to more questions, I wanted to hear a little bit more, if you could expand on the process you went through to get funding and just kind of talk about that for the rest of us. What was it like to pitch and secure that funding, and what did you learn from that process as well that you'd like to share with the group?
Certainly. So, I mean, I think, you know, being a young female going into any room and going through that process of asking for money, I don't know why is awkward, but it is. So I kind of had to hype myself up in my car every single time I did it. But I knew my numbers, I knew my story, and I'm so passionate about what I do and truly believe that nobody could execute Packed Party better than me. So I think that really, and my investors too, would tell you like, oh, we invested in Jordan. You know, a lot of them came back and said, we're investing in people. And so I think passion really comes through because numbers are not my strong suit. Of course, I know Packed Party's numbers inside and out, but if you want to go through a financial model with me, it's not going to be as exciting as, you know, me designing the product. So I knew the numbers, and I was really honest about things that I didn't know while they were talking to me. It's like, walk me through this. I'm like, well, that's a great question. I can circle back with you on that. And, you know, I mean, I got anxiety when I was going through the financial piece of the deck, but the numbers were real. We were profitable. I mean, there was a lot of introductions that were made for me on my behalf because I hadn't necessarily done a lot of networking in Austin, but we had some great press. So by no means did I just have this big network of, you know, very wealthy people that I had access to. I didn't grow up in a circle with tons of people, you know, that had deep pockets. So that wasn't the story for me. And I was really worried about raising money. I was like, oh my gosh, like, you know, you read all these stories about people raising money and then getting their companies taken away. Like, what exactly does this look like? How much control do they have? So I took on a $500,000 investment first, and then I closed the rest of the round a few years later. So I kind of did 2 seed rounds, which when it's all said and done, it doesn't really matter what round it is. I mean, you're just putting a name to it legally and doing all the paperwork for it. But for me, I mean, I really only took money on when I needed it, but I wasn't desperate for it. So I think, you know, that's something else. Like, I had a very clear plan of what I was going to do with the proceeds and putting it to work immediately. And I laid that out too. So the 2 biggest things, you know your numbers, be really passionate, and, you know, have a great, very concise deck. Don't have your deck. And now I've sat in pitches. On the other side, some of our investors will have me sit in on things and say, hey, like, will you sit in on this and tell us what you think from a millennial female perspective of this brand? And so many people will bring in decks that are so detailed, they don't even do any talking. And so their passion doesn't come through. So I would suggest keeping, you know, a deck really, really succinct and tight so you can talk through it and there's something left to be desired. You know, while you're talking. I think that's really important too. But yeah, that was kind of the process for me. It was in-person pitching, and it happened rather quickly.
And did you have on your side any qualities that you were seeking in who you'd partner with? with the investment?
Yes, I wanted somebody with retail experience and a network that I could lean into, because I didn't have necessarily a network to help me. I knew in putting the group together in Austin, you know, I put an ex-Facebook executive who now he's at TikTok, but Zuckerberg like hired him and he's on my board. So I knew he had a lot of digital media experience, and I knew that we were going to be investing in Facebook, and I knew that he understood branding, and he had initially invested in CFA. He was, you know, the chip company here in Austin. So I knew he understood brands. And at the time when I was raising the money, I mean, I didn't even talk to them at all about, yeah, I'm going to turn this thing into a paper party supplies company too. So that was really just an added bonus. I mean, at the time we were just talking about furthering our major account basis and the direct-to-consumer efforts. But yeah, putting together just a diverse group is really important, and people that you like, because they are going to be really involved in your business. So money, it's not just money. You've got to take the right money, because you get in with the wrong person. It's like being in a bad relationship, right? You're like, why? You're making my life a nightmare. So that's important
awesome.
to, you know, even if you need the money, to go slow and make sure that you're working with the right person.
I love that. All right. Who's got questions for our amazing founder? Just unmute yourself if you want to ask something.
And Jessica, it looks like we have one in the chat box right now.
Oh, okay. Looks like Lennis, did I pronounce that name correctly? Do you want me to read your question for you? See here, it says, I would love to know what was your process to know who to hire first, how to build that foundation team that helped you at the very beginning.
I hired around my weaknesses. So I'm not a read the manual kind of person. I'm like, I'll figure it out as I'm building it. It's a really good quality for a founder, and a really bad quality too, as you're building processes and things. So I hired an operations person first, but the largest hire, the most expensive, like biggest investment hire I made was my actual social media director. So she was my first six-figure hire. And she came, you know, down the road, but she was like, I think number 7 at my business. She's still with me now. And I knew, I was like, Instagram is the number one referral for me. So it looks really different to pay this person or bring this person on before I had a president or things like that. But like, we built out our operations team first. We were kind of the salespeople on the side. Like, I was the one calling 3,000 accounts alongside, like, our designers were even calling cold calling accounts at the time, because that was a whole different piece of our business. I mean, I was kind of filling around like emergency holes, which I don't know if there's a right or wrong way to do it. Every business is different. Looking back, you know, if I would have had all of the money in the world, I think we would have created, you know, more of a dynamic employee structure with people with, like, you know, layers and having managers and things. But I was like, great, you can do this. You can answer the phone. Like, oh my gosh, thank you. And now there's a lot more structure at the business. You know, our president manages a lot of the people stuff. So I hired really around things that I wasn't great at and things that I didn't want to do. I wasn't best serving the business doing much else besides selling to the major accounts and then designing the product. So fill holes where you need them, and, you know, don't be afraid to give those people pieces of your business to incentivize them to, you know, make it their own. Let them make it their own too.
Very good. I love that. Who else has a question they want to ask Jordan? Oh, Dick, go ahead.
Yes, Jordan, marvelous. That's you finally on the picture on the left. I went to the website. It's too bad we can't see you in this funny little box, because you're very presentable and quite likable. Question for you. Knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently?
It's a great question. I think I think I would have invested more in legal on the front piece of this. I'm like touching on everything that's been on this call. So I think I had no idea, the idea of filing trademarks and patents, which I now have both. That was really scary to me. I had no idea. I was like, I can't be in a lawsuit. Like, what? I can't even communicate with a lawyer. So I kind of pushed a lot of those things off, and it bit me on the backside. That number one cup that I made, somebody else made it and they filed a patent on it. And then I still make that cup, but I pay a royalty on that cup. So a good idea is a good idea, but you have to protect your best ideas. So that's definitely something I would have done differently in the beginning, would have been investing in the legal. And then also to speak to the hiring piece, I think, instead of filling holes in the beginning, I don't know if it's right or wrong, I would have stopped a little bit more and said, am I setting this person up for success? A lot of times in the beginning, which a lot of people work great this way, but I just didn't stop to say, hey, like, it's your first day. Should we get you some lunch? I was a really young founder. So I was just like, hey, like, here's a phone, here's your laptop. Like, let's just figure this out together. And that works for a lot of people, but that doesn't work for a lot of people too. So now, we have an HR person that gets their desk ready and all of those things, again, that I just didn't know at the time, but I would have stopped and slowed down probably and looked at, what does our culture look like? And what does this look like from a long-term perspective to make somebody, want to stay and things like that.
That's very good. I had those moments too with my business where I was like, oh yeah, when I was an employee, this is what the company did for me. Probably do that for employees.
Yeah, I mean, by the time I was hiring people, it was like such an emergency. I was like, pick up the phone, it just, and a lot of those people, to their credit, have stayed and been with me for years, but it's other people are like, I'm so stressed, I'm so overwhelmed, like, I can't, you like don't eat lunch, like you eat lunch at your desk, like I want to, it's just a different mindset. So we still run pretty, hot and fast, but as a business, I mean, it's a lot of guys and girls that work really, really hard and respect what we're building. And, they just know they're kind of mentally tough in that way. They're like, hey, like, there's not a ton of backfill here. So every time I'm at work, I kind of got to be on. I mean, there's 20 people that work at Packed Party. So if you're kind of having an off day, I mean, now everybody really has to be on during a pandemic or working from home as a small business. So it's all kind of on you.
Yeah, that's great. Who else has a question for Jordan?
Hey, Jordan, Jeff Kickle here. Phenomenal job. I just love your story. I love hearing about where you've been. Let me ask you this question. If you look forward 10 years from now, where are you going to be?
I love that question. I just was talking about this last night. There's kind of two answers. One, I hope I'm on a ranch somewhere, like chasing around a bunch more Bernese Mountain Dogs and kids and things. But I'd like to work in VC at some point, working with other brands. The Packed Party's really come to a position. I mean, the business in a lot of ways, it's not necessarily completely running itself, but we've gotten to a really good spot. I mean, the brand is only going to continue to grow and flourish inside a lot of these retailers. I mean, we have a hair line launching in Walmart this October. We're working on a baking line. We have a pet line coming out. I mean, we really are going to become a household name inside their stores, which I'm just beyond thrilled about. But really what gets me excited and kind of what refreshes me is working with other entrepreneurs and hearing kind of their pain points in marketing and kind of helping them position their business and tell, their brand story and give the brand voice. My brother started a company 2 years ago, so I named his company and helped him with a lot of the marketing and things like that. And that's been really cool for me and rewarding. So hopefully that in the next 10 years.
Sounds great. All right. Other questions?
Yes, I have a question. This is
Go for it.
Thanks. It was a good presentation. And earlier in the presentation, you'd indicated that you right now reached a revenue level of 20 million. And so my question is, as you grew the company to grow to 20 million, did it happen because you tried to address a number of accounts and each of them sort of collectively built that up? Or was it getting a key account that had a big move that sort of opened up that kind of revenue?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, working with Walmart, they're the largest retailer in the world, so that changes things, and they order so differently as somebody in the sort of high-end major accounts world, the Neiman Marcus's, the Nordstroms, et cetera. They just don't order the same volume as a Walmart. Right. Walmart, for me, when I started Packed Party, before I worked there, that agency that I worked at, I knew how Walmart worked. Walmart was our client. And so I was 22 years old going into all these Walmart stores and merchandising them. And so I saw the hole and the need inside their store. So I kind of knew that there was just this big gap in the market to target millennials like myself for just kind of blackout type purchasing in kind of the colorful space. So that kind of paired with our online sales growing a lot really exploded the business. And our site's being redone. For those of you guys that are on our website right now is really transactional. I mean, we just hired an e-commerce director in the last year. Like our president was actually running the online site because we were just trying to keep up with orders on the wholesale side. So really the grocery piece of the business and online selling the products direct really made us, grow significantly and a lot faster.
Awesome. Who else has a question for Jordan? Because I've got more.
I have just a quick question.
Oh wait, go ahead.
This is Bill Combs from No Time for Social. What e-commerce platform do you use? I'm just interested in knowing because I know BigCommerce is about to go public soon, and there's several of them in the Austin area.
We used to use BigCommerce, and then we switched back to Shopify.
Okay.
Just with the plugins, and then it integrated better with my inventory management system. So
cool.
We are on Shopify.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right. Dick again. I see your hand up.
Jordan, how'd you come up with the name? It's really a neat name, but how'd you come up with it?
It was a packaged party that I was sending to myself in my dream. And so I wrote down Packed Party because the idea that you could be on your couch and just have this like room full of people that you necessarily, like being at a packed party, but all you needed was the package. That was our original logo, was a girl in a crowded room holding a package above her head. It was like, all you need is a packaged party. Like that, it made perfect sense. I looked packedparty.com up online. The domain hadn't been taken. There was nothing on social media, which is shocking because it's such a common phrase. So there was a lot of open search. And I didn't really ask anybody either. I think a lot of entrepreneurs that I meet are like, I'm thinking about these names. And I talked the other day on a podcast. I had heard this. I think it was Sarah Blakely that said it, but it was a different podcast I was not speaking on, I was listening to, that said some of the most successful brands out there, there's just something about using like a hard CKX, like Spanx, Coke, that resonates with people in their minds. So did not know that tidbit when I named Packed Party, but something to note.
Yeah, that's a good tip.
If you're naming your business, stick a C, a K, and there's something hard to enunciate.
I would like to hear a little bit about how this year and COVID impacted your business and stuff that you may have done this year differently or pivots that you did that kept you successful this year.
Yeah, COVID came really, really fast. As a very small business, like internally, we were sitting in our office, we had heard about the virus from a lot of our manufacturers, like January to February. Our team still went in January over there. We had gone several times in preparation for, launching in Walmart this past June. And we still went in January. The virus kind of came out, I think it was like 3 weeks thereafter. And so everybody on our team was fine. They hadn't really shut down over there. And then there was kind of rumblings, fast forward to February, this is coming, this is happening. We were kind of like, why is our stuff delayed? This is so weird. Like, why is this office being shut down overseas? Is this really that big of a deal? So we had known about the virus, like it wasn't some new word to us when it came, but all of a sudden a lot of Austin offices were shutting down. We had to kind of have like an emergency meeting in our office. It's like, okay, wow, like everybody's going work from home. We've never gone work from home as a small team. What does this look like? So we immediately put work from home into place. Once we sat down, we ironed out a plan, all within like 2 hours. For closing the office, the rest of our office, there's 2 other businesses in this office. We're the whole upstairs version of it, but we just didn't know. I was like, what are they going to do? They're like staying in the office. I'm like, okay, this isn't going to work. I've got a lot of girls on this team that are freaking out and coming to us, about what this all looks like. Their friends are working from home. They want to work from home. So I just had a really real and candid conversation with everybody before we left. It's like, look, we could all lose our jobs if we, don't work as equally hard through this. A lot of people are going to lose their jobs. This is going to be a turbulent time. And sure enough, it was. I didn't even know when I said that just how turbulent and how much it would affect so many different kinds of businesses. But we really, to credit our team, everybody stepped up to the plate. We use Slack a lot. Everybody, checks in at 8:30 with their manager on Slack. And we had to come up with a new process for checking designs and creating like new programs for Walmart through Google Slides and adding comments in a different way. Just communication really stepped up. But Packed Party has done super well. Our sales are better than ever because people are partying from home at a grocery level and then they're shopping online. So we've actually really exploded. Fortunately enough, we've been blessed to have done super well through the pandemic, and credit to our team. And we started selling Send Quarantinis packages and the social distancer, like care packages and things. So we kind of went back to our roots, and it really, really worked for us. We started, giving back. There was a give back portion to those packages. They gave back to Feeding America. We were able to donate, I saw it just the other day, 25,000 meals in just a couple of, I think it was like 6 weeks of selling those, which is really cool. So the beauty of being a small business, not a lot of red tape. We were able to pivot really quickly, create new SKUs and products. But yeah, overall, we've done really well. Sales are up. People are spending more time inside grocery stores like Whole Foods because they're bored. There's nothing else to go and do. So yeah, sales are doing really well.
That's awesome. Very good.
Or they don't want to do dishes. Maybe that too.
Anything to maybe brighten their day. And they're like, this would be more fun to eat this way, or something have an
absolutely
at-home party. Yeah. Anybody else have any questions? I have one last one that I can ask, but I don't want to. All right. Last one that I had on my list was, so I heard you mention that you had a president. So I imagine they run a lot of the day-to-day. So what is your role now with the company?
I am really the creative director of the company, and then I manage all of our major accounts on the grocery side. Mm-hmm. So, and then kind of some, because I'm looped in on exclusive designs, we do a lot of the greeting cards for David's Bridal and some exclusives for them. So, when you're going back and forth with the buyer about what the design is going to be, then I'm involved. But I manage Whole Foods, Walmart, not on an operational basis, with the sell-through and things, but certainly in pitching new programs, bringing the vision to life, and then checking all of the samples. So my days are really eaten up. I'm the one coming up still with all of the initial concepts, the words that we're going to put, the Pantones. That's my favorite part about the job, is really creating the vision for what the products are going to look like on the shelf and how the customer can mix and match between SKUs.
That's awesome. I see that Ben has a question. Ben, you want to go?
Yes, Jessica, thank you. Hi, Jordan. My name is Ben Ornelas. I'm also really fascinated by your story. It's wonderful. I had a question for you about whether you have any of your products in another language.
I don't right now. I think, you know, potentially if the business was brought on by a larger business or manufacturing group, I think that's something that they would definitely invest in. It's just not something currently that we've had. I mean, we could put Shopify, there's a plugin to change the language on there, and we do ship and sell into different countries. Like there's retailers in Saudi Arabia, Guam, Puerto Rico, there's a lot of Germany. There's a store or two in the UK that sells our stuff, but they're really paying a premium price currently to get it there. We don't actually have a distributor overseas. So that's something I think down the road that we definitely want to look into.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna scroll and see if anybody else has any final thoughts or questions we want to ask Jordan while we have her on the line. Okay, I think we're good. I really
Perfect.
appreciate your time. I think everybody feels inspired, and this was a really engaging story. So thank you so much for your time sharing it.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. This is amazing what you guys have built here and the way that you've taken it online and connecting other people. It's awesome to see and really refreshing during COVID. We all need connection right now. So thank you guys for connecting with me.
Thank you so much. So
Yes.
I'll clap, muted clap. Everybody's clapping. You can't see it.
I appreciate it. So funny.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. And I really appreciate all of you guys who took the time this morning to log on. I hope this was worth your time in front of Zoom. I know all of us are probably spending too much time in Zoom, so I hope it was worth getting on again. And Chamber, I don't know if you guys have any additional announcements you want to make before we jump off.
Just do another thank you. Thank you guys for joining us today. And thank you to Jim with Richards, Rodriguez, and Skeeth for sponsoring this event. And for everyone for being so flexible with what kind of our new norm looks like as we're still trying to connect and get together for our events. So, and thank you, Jessica, for hosting today and being such a good leader of our entrepreneurship arm. But that's all we have. All right. Well, I hope everyone has a great afternoon. I'll go ahead and leave the event open for a little bit. So if anyone wants to share their contact information to connect with each other later on, feel free to do so. Thanks again.
Thanks, guys. Waving.